National. My name is Joyce Jakada, and today I have Sele Elisha Dasham to discuss some national issues. Sele, good afternoon.
Afternoon, Joyce.
Sele?
How is your day going?
Well, it has been good, and you look good. You got the memo, right?
I did.
Yeah, in case you are lost, black and white. Well, I actually complimented it with a red.
Yeah, thanks.
Good to have you, Sele. Quickly, let's begin with what is trending. Atiku Tinubu skip Arise TV presidential town hall series. The presidential candidate of the People Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, and his All Progressive Congress counterpart, Bola Tinubu, failed to show up at the Arise TV presidential town hall series. The debate, organized by Arise TV in collaboration with the Center for Development and Democracy, held at the Transcorp Hilton, Abuja. Although Atiku was represented by his running mate, Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa, Tinubu sent no representative. But the supporters of the LP, the NNPP, and the PRP, who were unhappy with Atiku's absence, heckled Okowa, stating that the event was meant for the presidential candidates only. Sele Elisha, Arise TV actually organized the usual presidential town hall series, and it was just like an opportunity for presidential candidates to come out and talk, especially on security and economy, like talk about their manifesto, what they hope to do and all of that. And we saw how that the Labour Party presidential candidate was present, that of PRP and also that of NNPP. But Atiku of the PDP and Tinubu of the APC were absent, and people have been talking. These two people, like we saw how last weekend, almost throughout the week and even till today, the camp of Atiku and that of Tinubu have been intensifying their fireworks, calling themselves names amongst others. Nigerians have been talking, why can't you bring out issues, debate on issues? Like, it's more like an insult to the challenges, like ignoring the challenges that Nigerians are facing, and then you that are aspiring to be a leader, you're busy throwing tantrums at each other. It didn't just end with the candidates, but even their supporters. Like, what happened to all the myriads of challenges we are facing? And then out of all time, you choose now, where some families are being attacked, some communities are attacked, individuals are going hungry. Like at the time, the flood has caused a lot of challenges. Instead of we seeing these people coming out to debate on issues, talk about how that they can bring lasting solution to all of these problems, we see them throwing tantrums, and you begin to ask what kind of leader at the end of the day will they want to be? And here is an opportunity coming from the Arise TV, and we are seeing that some of these presidential candidates are absent.
You know, Joyce, is quite sad, and I think, in fact, when I saw it, or I was kind of surprised, or not really surprised, because just like you said, from last week we saw the papers, and we saw where even INEC gave them certain guidelines that are supposed to guide the campaigns. They were told not to use back name on it, bad lashing anybody, do not call names, do not do anything. Just be focused on your manifestos. Tell us what you hope to do for Nigeria come 2023, and not to, you know, keep going back and forth. But it's obvious we saw that they were absent during the debate, and lots of Nigerians felt disrespected, because if you cannot come out and actually tell us the plans you have for Nigeria, then possibilities that you don't even know what it takes to actually rule the country like this. We saw that during the peace accord signing, they were absent. Or Atiku was present, but we saw Tinubu was not there. During the NBC, where we saw Shettima represented Tinubu, he still was not there. And now we're seeing the same thing. Atiku was not there, even though Atiku sent his vice, but people were bullying him and saying, no, they want the presidential candidate himself. But then if you look at all this, I know it's not about your manifestos, it's not about what you would say, but at least I believe that should give Nigerians hope that this is the person they hope to vie for. Even though the reasons they gave why they didn't come, according to Kenyatta, because he is actually the campaign spokesman for the APC presidential presidential, and he gave some reasons. He said they have been receiving lots of invitation from other TV stations, and they don't want to accept one and leave the other. But I feel, yes, in as much as INEC said you should be everywhere, you should not, choose one. But I feel it's a kind of giving respect and kind of a sense of priority. If you are telling us that one of the reasons, according to the APC, they said they already had a scheduled meeting at MENA to meet with some agro, production and all of that. But I believe you can separate. Your running mate can be there while you go for your presidential debate. I think that will actually let your followers or those who are actually campaigning for it to know that you truly have their interest in heart. But you being absent definitely will definitely create lots of talks coming from people, will definitely give you kind of like a bad vibe, because people want to have your vibe. People want to know that yes, this is the person I'm giving my my vote come 2023, and he is there. Let me hear what he has to say. Even though we heard what they said when they went to the various states, we saw where this like Peter Obi of Labour Party said that there are lots of resources in the north. It's unacceptable for them to be poor and all of that. That is one among many other things they have said. But I believe that it's supposed to, they are supposed to give us that respect. They are supposed to let us know that, okay, this is what they have for us. So they should be present. So them being absent truly will really give them a very, very bad vibe when it comes to the elections.
Sela, if you ask me, I'll tell you that it is an opportunity for every candidate to take advantage of, because it will offer them the opportunity to sell themselves.
True.
And like I said, Nigerians, this is the time that we're supposed to set agendas for these people by asking them intelligent questions. If you don't come out to like a town hall meeting like this to answer questions that has to do with security and economy, how do you expect Nigerians to actually take you serious? I will tell you, Nigerians more than ever before are wise, and people are watching. They are watching the people that are coming out to tell them about their manifesto and how they are going to deal with issues. Like, this is something that everybody should take advantage of. Well, I watched how the representative of Atiku spoke about how that if given the opportunity, they are going to introduce intelligence gathering. They are going to decentralize the police. He spoke about having more boots on ground, having addressed the issue of unemployment, and even uniting the country. That's coming from the representative of Atiku. And Obi, on his side, he talked about government response to insecurity being weak. That if it was anything to go by, the government should have been able long time ago to deal with these insecurity issues, but we continue to allow this thing linger to the point that it's looking like, oh, these bandits are actually or these terror groups are already taking over. Like, imagine that attack is even going on in the Federal Capital Territory. Like, for Obi, he actually spoke about how that if we can move from consumption to production, is going to be actually helpful. He spoke about empowering people. When you empower people, the rate of crime is going to reduce, and I agree with him. He spoke about how that he actually ran Anambra State without even borrowing. He spoke about how that as at the time he left office, he actually left $50 million in assets, Diamond and Fidelity Bank. And these banks are mentioned because Nigerians can actually verify. These are on record. Kwankwaso, on his part, he spoke about using his experience as former Minister of Defense during Obasanjo's time, how that they were even able to supply other African countries with security. He said, he spoke about robust security. He spoke about how that a particular region cannot just win election on their own. He spoke about engaging people in dialogue, and when they refuse, the law will take its full course. And if you ask me, I'll tell you that at the time when Nigeria is having about 230 million people, between 270 to 370,000 policemen is not enough. Just oppose it with our number is actually not enough. Like, people have talked about the fact that even between this number, some have died, some have retired, and we need to increase the rate at which we employ or recruit people. That we will be able to tackle some of these security challenges. And the PRP candidate, on his part, promised Nigerians that he will not bring the baggage of past administration and recycle politicians into governance when elected. But you ask the question, what matters most to Nigeria right now is how do you intend to achieve all of this? Because this is not the first time we're hearing people coming out with campaign promises, coming out with manifesto money. When they came into power, like what we are looking forward to as Nigerians is the fact that people, beyond even telling us, oh, this is my plan, how do you intend to do it at the time where we're talking about low income, like lower revenue, how do you intend to increase revenue? Like, I like the fact that the Labour Party candidate spoke about empowering people. That way, you know that more people are going to be engaged and we're going to be getting more revenue. And if you get more revenue, that's an increase to your GDP and we're able to do certain things. And I think far beyond like just talking, what is more important is how do you hope to achieve all of this? What matters to Nigeria is the patriotism, the love that that person has for this nation. What about cutting the cost of governance? Because we have seen how cost of governance is so high that it's even taking like chunk of our budget. What are ASUU asking for? Just oppose it with what we spend on travels, what we spend on fuel. You begin to see that the cost of governance is actually high. So what are we going to do? How are we going to, how are you going to achieve that? Look at how that at a time like this, Nigeria is looking more divided than even ever before. When you go to the north, you see the issue of banditry, Boko Haram. Go to the south, we see agitations, kidnapping, amongst every other thing. So how do you intend to tackle the issue of inflation? What would you do about insecurity? What about corruption that is eating deep into the system? Because if you are unable to even deal with the issue of corruption, Sele, there's no way you'll be able to achieve a lot. What about the out-of-school children that we are having on the street? Why? Because they will tell you they can't even afford the public institution. Like, it's supposed to be free. You see tuition fees free, but the charges, they will begin to tell you, you need to pay for stamp, you need to pay for this, and at the end of the day, when you accumulate all this money, it's something that a lot of people cannot afford. What about our primary health care? How do you intend to facilitate this so that people at the rural area can actually have access? Dilapidated roads, what would you do about it? I think it is important that we look at issues like this going forward.
Of course, Joyce.
All right, let's move straight to the next story. On ASUU strike, pay lecturers full salary, ignore Ngige, Falana tells Buhari. Counsel for the Academic Staff Union of University, Femi Falana, has called on President Muhammadu Buhari to pay the union's lecturers full. Academic Staff Union of Universities, Femi Falana, has called on President Muhammadu Buhari to pay the union lecturers their full salaries. In a statement on Sunday, the senior advocate of Nigeria asked Buhari to ignore the advice of the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, and pay ASUU members complete salaries from February to October 2022. The federal government recently allegedly paid half salaries to members of ASUU for the month of October 2022, where some professors reportedly received salaries ranging from 71,000 naira to 121,000 naira. Falana explained that since the industrial action was called off, the public universities have adjusted their calendars to ensure that the 2021/2022 academic session is not cancelled. He said, having regard to the facts and circumstances of the ASUU strike, the doctrine of no work, no pay is totally inapplicable, as students who were not taught during the strike are currently attending lectures and writing examinations. Sele, the issue of strike, ASUU strike, is something that has been, if you ask me, it's actually worrisome, because at the end of the day, you begin to ask, at the receiving end of who? Of course, the students and their parents. This ASUU strike have lingered for long, for about 8 months, before the industrial court actually instructed ASUU to resume, and in obedience to that, the union actually went back to the classroom. And then we saw how students from different parts of the country have traveled back to resume lectures. And amidst that, while we are hoping that the agreement that was signed by federal government is going to be met, some lecturers have complained of half salary payment for October. And you begin to ask, why are we going back and forth with this thing? Why won't we prioritize education? Why can't we end this matter once and for all? What is more worrisome to me is the fact that anytime there's issue of strike, federal government will agree, will sign. At the end of the day, you will now reject the payment or begin to bring issues like the country cannot fund that and all. When these same people are seeing how you're spending humongously on fuel, on travel, on other expenses, and then yet we're saying we cannot pay. Now with the payment of half salary, we're already seeing some institutions saying they are not going to release results. Some are even saying they are staying back at home, like the University of Jos. University of Gombe are saying they will not release results. ATB Bauchi is talking about cancelling 2021/2022 academic session. Like I will always ask, all these things we are doing is at the detriment of who? The students and their parents. Just when they've resumed, a lot have traveled. So many people have traveled. Look at the expenses amidst this inflation and other things. You don't know how some of these parents have to struggle so that the student can go back to the Minister of Labour is already saying they have to apply the no work, no pay. I don't know what's your take on that.
No, Joyce, it's really sad. Just like you said, this whole issue have lingered for so long, and I don't know why we are still where we are presently. Just like you said, when we're all excited and happy that finally schools have opened after 8 months, and then we're being faced with this. In fact, even when the strike was called off, we had issues when we're being very like say we're having some mixed feelings that maybe the lecturers will not even be willing to give their 100% because they were asked to go to the classroom without a penny being given to them. And even when they decided to, okay, let us go teach the students, we know that some, just like you said, students have traveled from different parts to go back to school, and just for them to meet, they sit at home. And then here we are having the minister said, according to the media, it is not half salary. They call it pro rata. That according to them, that is, they are being paid for the number of days they work. So that means they are being paid for the half of Kodunua. When that union was being, that have been fortunate, have been working. But then it bothered, we have lots of times the educational system. I do not know how we think in this part of the country. Somebody will say maybe the crime we have committed is because I am in Nigeria and that is why I'm being faced with all of this. But I hope that we'll go back to the drawing board, just like you said, at the end of the day, who are the people at the receiving end? Of course, the students and also their parents. Can't we see the number of crime rate left, right, and center? Elections is just by the corner. The same youth that are idle will not be the ones to be served as talks to cause confusion left, right, and center. No matter how we see it, we cannot, underrule the fact that when you make life unbearable for these poor ones, it's just a matter of time. They won't even leave your own children that study outside the shores of Nigeria. And I keep making reference to the Bible. He said, let no public officer send his child abroad. We saw the way they were sweeping to action in Ukraine back home. Talking about that's just the tertiary institution that now to give us how about you go to some of their buildings dilapidated, nothing can be, you can't even say anything about it. You feel as if they do not want to be. But I want the federal, actually sitting at home. So what is that called? I'm now calling our lecturers that they are now IPOP, that are now declare Mondays for sit at home. Of course not. But I hope that we go back and really realize that it's just a matter of time. This thing is really eating us deep. And definitely I've had conversation with some of them, and that is what will now happen. Would they go back? Where would they even start? The little money they were able to gather to start something, they were hoping to go back to school, and this is what they will need. So I really hope that the federal government will sit down. We saw when the Minister of Education said, he
spoke about the fact that beyond saying you are failed, people are looking forward to seeing measures that you're going to follow to adjust your ways. Like in other climes, people honorably resigned, but if you are saying university lecturers already staying back at home, due last month 50% of their own salary spent on NNPC. Like, how much have we spent on Ajakuta? About how almost 100 billion was actually given for inauguration of NNPC, and then some of these refineries. So these people are for 10 years, over 10 years, have not been able to produce even a single oil, and still the money we have been spending on them. Yet these people, even their job, produce, whether doctors, whatever field you climbs, out of the 30 federal countries we have, can we compare in terms of parameters, indices, how they take education serious? Why do we want to continue to suffer people? I say if we don't change from this trajectory of me, myself, and I, because my children are studying abroad, so you think the children of the poor should just suffer whatever it is. If you're having issues, let's say with the lecturers, can you think of the students that are the receiving end? Because at the end of the day, the person that suffers it is the student and then their parent. Can we begin to think about these students and then their parent? If we deprive this, said, your children that school outside the nation will not have a conducive environment, that there's judgment day. At the end of the day, you will answer to all these things. Like you're being saddled with responsibility. People elect you on basis of trust. And if you cannot live up to that responsibility or task, I think you should honorably resign. And if you cannot do the needful, you should not remain in the office and keep people suffering. Like, look at what we've been going back and forth about this ASUU thing. But I think beyond all this issue, the minister, the everybody that is in charge, like the Minister of Labor is supposed to be someone that will come between when there's like it's going to be a disaster. Look at how he quickly registered Konwa and NAMDA. Is that supposed to be a solution to the ongoing problem? Even if you are thinking of paying Konwa, have they been in classes? They said they've not been on strike. How many times have you passed the University of Jos and see that the school is open and the students are on strike? We're just trying to cause more problem. But just like Falana has said and advised Buhari, I think it is something that was done in the past. At some point, doctors went on strike for 2 months, and then Buhari bypassed the minister and actually paid them for the 2 months, even when he was shouting, no work, no pay. And I think, just like Falana said, it is important that the president ensures that these people receive their salary so that they won't even go to class and start transferring aggression. Already said they are talking about staying at home. So who will even teach while the universities are open? Where are the lecturers? Please, let's do the needful in terms of prioritizing education. Government should critically look at these issues that are on the table. ASUU have been contributing to nation building. We can't take that away. And we're not just the point actually praising their staying at home or whatever. But let's settle this issue. Let's not continue to sign agreement that we know at the end of the day we are not going to fulfill it. That is very important. Let integrity be seen on the table, whether coming from the Minister of Education, the Minister of Labor, or whoever is involved. Let's recognize global standards and indices and check. If it's not in line with ours, let's do the needful instead of blame game and trying to point fingers and all of that. Sele, our time is fast spent. Your final word.
Well, there's so much I would love to say, but then I believe that at a time like this, I would say this, that if you think that the politics that is happening presently will not affect you, then I think you need to think twice of the policy, because at the end of the day, we'll all be part of it.
Thank you so much for doing this with me, and to our viewers out there, many thanks for joining us always on the program Nigeria Now. We appreciate your comments and your likes. Continue to follow us, ECWA Television International, Facebook and on YouTube. I don't know what 2023 general election means to you, but it is the time to get the change that we need to make Nigeria a better place. We need to elect the right people into positions, people that have the interests of humanity at heart, people that are ready to cut the cost of governance and meet the needs of the average man. Thank you for staying with us. Until come your way tomorrow, same time. Bye-bye.